The Commentary Booth is a show for media lovers by media lovers just like you. If you want to support the show, go to jamiapsmedia.com. Welcome to The Commentary Booth, the ultimate weekly entertainment recap and review show. My name is Jamie Apps, and each week I'll be joined by a rotating cast of co-hosts to run you through the entertainment media we've consumed during the week. Along the way, we'll provide you with insightful commentary and reviews. This week, I'm joined by a teacher who lists their favourite movie as the entire Harry Potter series and favourite TV show as Parks and Rec. Welcome back to the show, Leigha Poulton.
Hey, happy to be here.
How is everything on your end of the world?
All right. I mean, holidays are over, so that's a bit sad. And I started a new job, which is exciting. So I've had week 1 at my new school, and everyone seems really lovely, so that's nice.
Very nice. I see you got a window desk too. That's nice.
It is nice. I mean, the school's moving, but so I have a year at that desk. But it's so nice to just look out and be like, oh, freedom, while I'm doing work at my desk.
Yeah, it is always nice to be able to at least see out and not feel shunned away in a corner somewhere.
Exactly.
And the new school's going well? Kids are all good?
Yeah, I mean, it's very different from my old school. All the kids are in perfect uniform. I had my first class on Friday, and I was very surprised to have the whole class just get their laptops out and do work without speaking for a whole period.
Lovely. It makes life very easy.
It was, although to the point where I was like, oh, have you had a nice first day?
you wanted them to talk to you like, hey.
Yeah, they were like, yes, miss. And I was like, okay.
Okay, I'll just sit
talk.
down and let you do whatever.
Yeah, that's not my style. I like to have like a rapport with them, but they just weren't. They were just focused. And I was like, I wonder if they're actually doing it. So I was walking around the room checking they were all doing it. It was weird.
Oh, well. Hopefully it continues like that all year and you don't get overly stressed because they're all well behaved.
Well, hopefully. I mean, years 8 to 10 come back tomorrow. So I'm sure, it might change. They might have got me into a false sense of security. So we'll see.
Oh, good luck.
Thanks.
Was it really hot during the week for the start of class?
No, it was rainy, which was nice.
You avoided that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be hot on Tuesday, so it'll be very interesting to see how it is being in Sydney. And then, although my dance studio has aircon.
No, sweet.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And so does my staff room, so hopefully it shouldn't be too bad.
Nice. So have you checked much out this week?
Look, now that I'm driving an hour and a half each way every day. So for me, I haven't really been watching anything new. Yes, we've been watching Vampire Diaries because I'm still not finished.
Still going?
Yeah, still going. We're up to season 6 now.
Ooh, getting close.
Getting close. But yeah, for me, it's not really been TV. It's just been podcasts.
Yep.
Yeah. What about you?
So last night, Apple TV dropped a brand new movie starring Justin Timberlake.
Cool. Which,
as soon as I saw the trailer a while ago, I was like, oh yeah, definitely need to see that. Obviously everyone loves Justin Timberlake, but...
Yeah. Serious movie or...?
It's like a full-on serious drama. So really nice film, actually.
Cool.
I wasn't expecting a lot out of it. Like, I was just like, okay. Random movie exclusive to Apple TV. Like, it could be really good. It could be a dud. But so far Apple's done really well with their movie offerings.
Okay.
Like, the last one I watched was Greyhound with Tom Hanks, and that was like a war movie that I really enjoyed. And then this one is, like I mentioned, a drama with Justin Timberlake playing an ex-convict named Eddie Palmer. He gets released from prison after spending 12 years in there for attempted murder.
Mm.
Then he goes back to his hometown and obviously being a convicted felon, like, struggles to fit back into the community, struggles to find work. But as the movie goes along, he strikes up this bond and friendship with a young boy that lives in the trailer next to his grandmother's house, and this little boy is very flamboyant, pretty obviously gay or struggling with his gender. So like he loves princesses and fairies and wearing girls' clothes and makeup and stuff. And obviously being this rural southern Louisiana town, that doesn't really fit in all that well with the other kids or the community in general.
Mm-hmm. So they're both outcasts is what I'm getting.
Essentially, yeah. So they've kind of the two outcasts, and they come together and become each other's sort of support network, and each try and push each other to be who they are without having to hide away at all. Palmer obviously being a convicted felon and a former sort of jock high school football star, struggles initially with Sam.
Right.
But eventually sort of becomes this kind of surrogate father figure and goes to all lengths to protect Sam, including like threatens to break a little kid's arm because he's bullying Sam, goes and beats up one of his own former high school drinking buddies, and just a really nice movie. JT's really great, kind of establishes himself again as he's a proper actor now. Like, he's not just some pop star trying to get into movies. He can legitimately carry a movie like this now.
That's awesome. Sounds like a good one.
I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I wasn't expecting much, but I really enjoyed it. A really heartwarming movie, and yeah, definitely brought a little tear to my eye at the end. Didn't properly cry, but I got close. I was like, oh, that's really lovely.
Okay, well, that's good. Go JT, bringing sexy back.
I think you'd enjoy this movie.
Okay.
Even if you don't enjoy the story, you'll enjoy just watching JT for 2 hours.
That's true.
Although I don't think he ever gets his top off. Maybe once.
Damn.
Maybe once.
Not about that. That's like when The Greatest Showman was on, and I was like, Zac Efron, come on. Come on. And he didn't take his shirt off once. So disappointed.
Because it's a Disney kids movie.
Don't care. They could have made it work. Come on. That's what we're there for.
Especially when they had Hugh Jackman in there too. Like,
yeah.
Surely you want a scene where they've both got their tops off.
Yeah. Just for the ladies. Why not?
Yep. Have you seen the news that Disney dropped this week?
No.
So, obviously Disney Plus, their streaming service.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, Disney bought all of the rights to Fox and a bunch of their properties. So, as of February 23, there's going to be a new brand on Disney Plus. So, you've got Marvel, Pixar, there's all those little tiles on the main screen. There's going to be a new one called Stars, which is going to be all of the adult movies. So it's going to be everything sort of above PG.
Okay.
So that's making their service much more enticing now.
Okay.
Because you don't just have to get it for the kids' stuff. There's going to be stuff there for the parents and whatnot as well. So I'm looking forward to that becoming available.
Cool.
And you mentioned, you've been listening to podcasts on the drive. What ones have caught you this week?
Okay, I've got two to talk about. The first one is called The Nurse. Have you heard of it? It's pretty big right now.
I haven't, but when I did the searching for the graphics and stuff, it looks like it could be an interesting one for me.
Yeah. Okay, so the journalist's name who produced The Nurse is called Camille Bianchi.
Yep.
And basically it follows the life of Tim Griffin, who is a nurse down in Tasmania. And he was a nurse for 18 years at the hospital. And he was working with really, really sick kids. Turns out, it's Jim, by the way, not Tim. Jim is a bit of a pedophile.
Lovely.
And the hospital did a bit of a cover-up story. So basically, Camille goes back and she goes deep dive from his early life and tries to follow his career and how he ended up there and why it was covered up for so long, or how he got away with it for so long. What's really interesting is before he was a nurse, he'd be a masseuse for netball teams of young women. So it has like lots of interviews with people that were around him at the time, and he would be massaging the girls in a private room with the door closed.
Yep.
So very suspicious. You don't do that with young females.
No.
Yeah. And then what's really amazing is there's this mother who worked with Jim at the hospital, and she noticed things about him, but basically everyone just goes, oh, it's just Jim. That's just Jim. He's just a bit quirky, but really suspicious stuff. But her daughter was sick in that hospital and he was her nurse. And so she had this big revelation where she's gone, hold on, has he interfered with my daughter? Turns out he had. And so it goes through like her story of like how she blames herself.
Yep. Yeah, you would when you've sort of spotted things that are a bit off and then don't act on it.
Exactly. So it's like she would notice him going to their bedside, or he'd carry them from the showers naked to their bed as a male nurse.
Yeah, okay.
Like it just is against protocol. It's in Launceston in Tasmania, so like small town, whatever. And they were like, oh, it's just Jim. It's not anything weird. So everyone just kept putting it down. But it turns out that a lot of people had actually complained about his behaviour. But it went to their supervisor, but the supervisor never reported it further up.
Like never followed through. That's bad.
Yeah, and then it got to a point where there'd be all these complaints. He got moved. Where did he get moved to? A youth detention centre.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so nobody's going to believe anything those kids say.
No. Anyway, so then it was kind of all coming down on him. He ends up committing suicide. But the whole point of this podcast is there's still victims out there. They should be compensated for the neglect of the hospital.
Yep.
And the care like that they expose them to.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a really good podcast. It's really well produced. It's really interesting, the people that they get to talk to. Quite sad and triggering, trigger warning for sure, but really important stuff. And it's not finished because the investigation's still ongoing.
Yeah, that's gross. Like,
it is.
Having spent a lot of time in hospital, I know I've dealt with a lot of different nurses. Some of them been great, some of them been bad, but none have ever been that bad.
Yeah. And that's the thing. This is what was so hard about it. He's dealing with kids. A lot of these kids were so sick, but they also he was in like the mental health ward. So a lot of them had problem with family.
Yep.
So they didn't have a lot of family, or they were quite poor. So this nurse, acting all friendly, he would invite them over for dinner and like befriend the family. So he'd be like, oh, look, you're not doing well. Like you don't have a lot of money or whatever. Come to my house for dinner. So he'd befriend the parents first, or the mum, because usually it would be a single female.
Mm-hmm.
And then he'd be like, oh, look, if you ever need a babysitter, I'm happy to babysit. Just creepy, man.
Yeah, so he found the easy targets.
Yes, it is. Very gross. So that's that one.
Yeah. Some of the nurses I had were incredible. Like, I remember being in the kids' hospital at Westmead. Like, some of the male nurses there were incredible. They'd bring in PlayStation games and stuff for me to play, like, while they were working. They'd be like, here's this, you can play it. And then at the end of the shift, they'd either, half of the time, they'd just be like, have you finished it yet? I'm like, no. Okay, just keep it. I'll get it next time.
Yeah.
I was like,
and look,
it's awesome.
That's why I think a lot of the hospital had told all the other nurses that were working to be quiet about the situation.
Yeah, because they didn't want to tarnish the whole hospital.
Yes. But they're like, our job is to protect. Like, we need to speak about this. A lot of them were trying to stand up, even though it would risk their job against the hospital were threatening to fire them, basically, if they talked about it. And a lot of them were like, no, I'm not going to be quiet because this is important. So there's some nice moments in there for them to be like, this is not okay, and I'll risk my job for the safety of my patient. So, there's amazing nurses out there, and we should be thankful, especially in this pandemic, of them.
Yep.
But yeah, it's an important story to tell because these things happen, and we need to have things in place for them to not ever happen again.
Yep. Yeah, I might have to check that one out. That one sounds pretty good.
It's good. And the other one I've been listening to is more on my true crime serial killer vibe.
Yep.
and it's called Ghost Gate Road.
Okay.
Okay, so Ghost Gate Road is hosted by a guy called Matt Condon, and it goes into the life of Vince O'Dempsey. Have you heard of Vince O'Dempsey?
Never.
Well, Vince O'Dempsey is said to be believed to be the worst serial killer in Australian history, possibly even the world.
Wow. That's a big call given we have Ivan Milat.
Yeah, he's worse. So this is the thing though, he's only been convicted of 3 murders. But all of his associates say that it's well over 100.
Jesus, that's a lot.
Which is worse than Jeffrey Dahmer and stuff like that. Yeah.
Wow.
So have you heard of the... So Vincent O'Dempsey was charged with the McCulkin murders.
Okay.
It was a mother and 2 daughters in 2016. No, hold on. He was found guilty in 2016.
Yep.
He basically... Okay, let me go back. The podcast follows his early life, and then it goes through his was in like a gang, basically, and it goes through all there, and basically the associates that he was with were too afraid to speak about him and his crimes. However, he got jailed for life, so he's never getting out. So a lot of them actually then get interview with Matt Condon on this podcast, and you get the insider's look at who he was as a person and the crimes that he committed from like his right-hand man.
Okay.
So it's really interesting to hear. Like, they're rough as guts. Like, the podcast, if you don't like swearing, don't listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're full on. And a lot of these guys have actually come out of their crime life, but had served a lot of time, and it's full on what they did. But yeah, it's a really interesting podcast because it definitely gives you a look into the mind of a killer, if you're into the psychology type thing.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it's down your alley of why did they do this, not so much what did they do.
Exactly, 100%. And what is interesting about it is Vincent is said to have a graveyard of where he'd put all his victims. Mm. And the rumour around the town, I can't remember the town, what it was that he had to start burying them feet down, head up. So
they took up less room.
Correct.
Jeez.
And no one's been able to find this yard. However, this is what the Matt has done, is he's trying to look into the background of him to find out how his mind works so he can find where it is.
Yep.
So he can be actually, like, obviously victims of families will be able to find their loved ones and know what happened.
Yeah, try and give people closure.
Yeah, exactly. So he's found really interesting stuff. All his associates have definitely spoken about it. He gets really close. I won't give it away because you've got to listen to it. But it's finished now, the podcast. However, he's like, I'm going to keep looking. Like, this is my life's work. So, I don't know. It's really good.
Nice.
Definitely up my alley. That's my type of podcast.
Yeah, that sounds like one that could be spun up into a TV series or something and
oh yeah,
made really compelling.
I'd never heard of it.
Neither. Like,
ever.
I guess because they only convicted him of 3, it never blew up in the media. Whereas if it got up above Malats and stuff, people would be like, oh, everyone would know about this.
Exactly. Anyway, it's really good. Like that's probably one of my favourite podcasts. My favourite murder, still my favourite. But that is definitely, like, if you want like a serious crime podcast to listen to, go for it.
That sounds like a full-on way to start your morning on the way to work, though.
Oh, I know.
Hey, if you listen to that, the kids can't be anywhere near that bad.
Oh, no, exactly. It's good prep.
Nice. The other things I've been watching, I've watched 2 TV series that are sort of something down your alleyway, sort of true crime-esque. Mm-hmm. The first one is called Your Honor, which is a 10-episode series on Stan, which stars Bryan Cranston, who's sort of most famous for his role in Breaking Bad and Malcolm in the Middle.
Okay.
And he plays a New Orleans judge who attempts to cover up a hit and run by his son, which resulted in the death of the son of a prominent drug dealer in the city.
Okay.
So, like, initially, he wants to go in, like, his son bails, obviously, hit and run, but initially, Brian's character wants to go and sort of admit to what's happened and get on the right path. But when he gets to the jail or the police station, he realizes who his son killed. And because it's this well-known drug dealer who is pretty violent, he just goes, oh, no, we can't be involved in this. Like, this is going to go really bad. So that's where they move into, right, let's just cover this up. And because he's a judge, he sort of knows what they'd be looking for in terms of evidence and tries to get ahead of it.
Yeah.
But obviously, given that it's a 10-episode series, it obviously isn't a quick, easy process to do, and everything begins to unravel and becomes this, like, spaghetti mess of issues that they're trying to nip in the bud, and then that causes something else and just ends up being sort of a bit chaotic.
A bit snowbally of chaos.
Yes. Cranston plays pretty much the same sort of type of character that he does in Breaking Bad, this good guy gone bad type thing.
Mm-hmm.
But so far, they're 8 episodes in. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm keen to see the outcome.
Yeah.
But I feel like it could have been a bit tighter. Like, 10 episodes feels like a bit of a stretch.
Right, it's dragging on a bit.
Yep. And, like, some of the episodes, like, not a lot happens, and then the next one, a heap will happen. You're like, couldn't we have sort of squashed this down to 5 or 6 episodes and made it a really tight, compelling show?
Mm-hmm.
Which sort of leads me on to the other one I've been watching, which is called The Undoing. And it is a 6-part series, so this is much tighter. And it's a crime drama starring Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant.
I love Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, incredibly stacked cast. Like, even Nicole Kidman's character, her father is another well-known actor that I recognise, but I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But yeah, like, as soon as you see him, you're like, oh, I know that guy.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, this show is based on a book called You Should Have Known, and it follows the trial of Hugh Grant's character, Jonathan Fraser, who is like this really wealthy pediatric cancer doctor. And he's accused of the brutal murder of a young woman. And as this sort of series plays out, you learn that he was having an affair with this girl. So obviously he, like, becomes prime suspect number 1. And then her husband is the other suspect. And it just, sort of goes along with... It sort of follows Nicole Kidman's character a little bit more than it follows Hugh Grant's character. He's kind of just the reason for this story to play out, whereas Nicole is the person that we're focused on and how she's struggling to come to terms that, oh, my husband was having an affair. Okay, did he murder this person? Is he capable of murder? And sort of how that goes.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. Sort of a dark, twisting tale. Like, it'll go from, you think it's going down one path, and then it'll slightly twist with new evidence that comes in. At one point, you start to think, wait a second, maybe did Nicole Kidman's character murder this girl? At another point, you think, oh, was it their son? So it's one of those shows where, being only 6 parts, it's really tight, so you're constantly like, what's going to happen next? And you can't sort of turn it off once you start. Like, once we started, we watched the whole series in a weekend, because at the end of every episode, you're like, oh God, now I've got to watch the next one, see what happens. And then next thing you know, there's only like an episode or 2 left. And you're like, oh, well, I guess I'm just going to finish this now.
Right.
I think you would really enjoy this one. Like, obviously, if you love Nicole Kidman.
Sounds good.
Like, you love Nicole Kidman, you love crime. This is...
I like Hugh Grant too. Does he have the accent?
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
Although he's a killer, that can't be attracted to that.
Yeah, and it's a brutal murder too.
Oh. Is it scary?
They don't show it too much. They just kind of allude to it, and they'll show like little glimpses and stuff. Like, this woman gets her head, like, absolutely smashed in with a hammer.
Right.
So
Ew.
it's gross, but
Does it show that?
no.
Oh, good, I can skip that part.
Yeah, so that's why it's sort of intriguing too, because it's such a brutal murder. You're like, was it a crime of passion? Was it a crime of jealousy? Like, all of these sort of elements play into it.
Right.
Probably one of the best shows I've watched recently. It's over on Foxtel or Binge. Highly recommend that one, especially, because it is only that 6 episodes. They're maybe an hour. I think the longest one was like an hour and 2 minutes or something, so it's not an overly difficult task to get through a season as well.
Cool.
And then just going to do a little bit of a teaser for an upcoming episode. We're going to do a more in-depth review in 2 weeks' time, but over the last couple of days, I was sent early access to the upcoming series Clarice, thanks to the team over at Stan. This series acts as a sequel to Silence of the Lambs and follows Clarice Starling 1 year after the events of that movie.
Ooh.
Obviously, as soon as I saw the trailer for this show, I was like, I need to see this. So I reached out to Stan and was like, hey, I wanted to initially speak to the actress for the upcoming issue of the magazine, which is the International Women's Day themed issue for March. Unfortunately, she wasn't available, but the PR team for Stan was like, we can send you the episodes early if you want to check those out. So I was like, okay, yep, definitely jump on this.
Awesome.
So far, really enjoying the show. I've only seen the first 2 episodes, but it really captures that tone of the movie. Like, it's dark and creepy without being like overly scary, even though I remember as a kid Silence of the Lambs scaring me to no end. There's lots of references and nods to the film. Like, they'll say little lines where you're like, that's a line from Silence of the Lambs, or that's a character from Silence of the Lambs.
Okay.
It's a really intriguing show so far. I'm going to do a more comprehensive review with Buddy in 2 weeks once they drop the series on the 12th of February, and we'll be able to watch a few more. So yeah, definitely look out for that one. In that episode in 2 weeks, I'm going full Hannibal Lecter theme for my part of the episode. Going to cover Silence of the Lambs itself.
Yep.
The rest of Clarice up to that point, and also the show Hannibal.
Very cool.
Keep an eye out for that one. Otherwise, what would be your top recommendation for the week?
Mine would be Go Skate Road.
Yeah, it sounds like it's one that Australians need to hear.
100%.
Crazy story by the sounds of it.
Yes.
And for me, it is JT's new one, Palmer, over on Apple TV Plus. If you've purchased an Apple product in the last 12 months, you have access to Apple TV. So probably check that one out if you can.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to the commentary booth. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. You can also support us over on Patreon at patreon.com/JamieAppsMedia. As I mentioned last week, we're rebranding some stuff. So that's something that you need to keep an eye out for. Should be announcing that very shortly. And you can follow me on social media at JamieAppsMedia, and you can follow Leigha over on Instagram at l.poulton, Poulton.
Awesome.
The Commentary Booth is a fan-funded production of Jamie Apps Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine Jam Zine over on Patreon at patreon.com/Jamie Apps Media. The following people supported at the Jam publisher level or higher, and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support. Brian and June Hart, Courtney Paulson, Tracy Apps.